How's everybody doing?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Hope everyone's doing well. Molly, Tim,
Hey guys,
how are you?
doing great.
Good
I look a
deal.
little funny. I just got headbutted by my toddler a minute ago, so.
That is easy.
Adam's got to stop doing that. That's not allowed. Yes. So again, as we go into this, I want to walk you through what the goal is around this program. So first off, I'm the family engagement chair. It's a position that most people don't know about, and other chapters in this organization don't have. I think St. Louis might be the only one, and I loved that when I first came in, because the whole reason why we do what we do as entrepreneurs, whether we want to remind ourselves every single day or not, is because of the life we want to live. And part of the life we want to live is with the families that we chose to live with. And I truly believe that. And so the goal as a family engagement chair for me and anyone who's helping with anything we're doing is I want the families to experience and believe in the value of what EO is. Does that make sense? Like, the members get it because they're involved in it, but I want the families to sit there and say, hey, my dad, Matt, I'm going to pick on you because you're here, right? Matt is in it, or Kayla is in it, my mom, my dad, and this is awesome because here's what we get out of this. Or my spouse is in it and we love it. Does that make sense? Versus like, oh, that's Kayla's thing, that's Matt's thing. I think there's an element to this for healthy relationships to thrive in this environment, just as entrepreneurs do. And when I was talking with Maria, I asked her, I said, why forum? Like, why do you want to be in a forum? I get why a business owner wants to be in a forum, but why would a spouse want to be in a forum? She said a couple things that I thought were interesting. First off, she said entrepreneurship is very lonely, right? And we all know that as entrepreneurs. But one thing she said that I thought was very impressive and kind of sat me back, which is that being the spouse of an entrepreneur is also very lonely, right? And there's things that her friends don't get, right? Whether you're a husband or a wife, it doesn't matter. There's things your friends don't get about a family that has an entrepreneurial life or is bringing in what, the money of the house or some of the money of the house in an entrepreneurial environment. For example, we won't get fired, but we can lose everything, right? Like, there's different risks that come to it. And all of a sudden our personal credit card is now getting used to pay for some business stuff. Like, there's things that spouses of entrepreneurs can't relate to other people who don't have an entrepreneur as a spouse. So this is not for people who are in business for themselves, right? Some of the spouses, some of you might have stuff that you're doing, but that's not the thing. It's not for people who are strictly out of being an entrepreneur. This is stuff for spouses of entrepreneurial members. And I think the biggest thing to recognize is this is not a social group. And I truly mean that. This is a group that if we do this right, that all of us, right, whoever's in this group is going to have a group that they can go through life with, they can do life with, in a way that you won't be able to relate to other friends. And by doing it right, you will build friendships, but this is not a social club, right? And I always tell members, I'm like, well, what's my spouse going to do in forum? Like, they don't have a business to talk about. I'm like, yeah, but, and you all know who are members on this call, it's such a small, like, we talk a lot of business, but when it comes down to the real benefit of what we get out of this is it's a lot of how do we do other parts of our life while still keeping the business. And that's why I think spousal forum is going to be so big for everybody. So that's the goal. When it comes to the structure, I'm a big believer in structure, right? My entire business is built on this little book you see here. It's a 9-part planning system, right? Like, this is what we do in all areas of our life. So structure is a big deal. And what I want you to recognize is in this format, because we're going to basically jumpstart relationships and dive deeper than you might have ever dove with other people you know in a very comfortable and safe way. So don't let that scare you, is because we have structure to how we do it. It's not just let's all get together and chat, right? You've seen what happens when that goes on. It's let's get together. There's a specific cadence that we talk. There's a specific format that we do. And there's even a way that we actually speak. So all of the structure is made so that it goes smooth and it's actually effective. The cool thing is you as a member of the forum get to help dictate and create that structure. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you best practices, and you'll hear that term throughout EO, and that's just what we've seen work over the last 20 to 30 years, right? So this works, so let's start here. But then if we have to tweak it, like let's say, for example, the group is majority people who work 9 to 5s, right? Well, doing a meeting at noon is not going to be workable for that group. So we have to adapt to make it work within the group. Some groups might have to meet on weekends. I don't know what the calendar schedule is, but that's what we're going to figure out as we put the groups together. But the structure is key. We're going to meet once a month, and it's going to be the goal of this whole spousal forum thing is that we want the spouses to have an opportunity to experience forum like the members do. It won't be the exact same as the members, right? Unless you have a business that you can actually experience the business side of it, but experience the value of what forum can do for you when you're with people who are in a similar situation in your life. So part of that is training. So we will do training for anyone who's interested in getting forum trained. And we would suggest everyone who's going to do this gets forum trained. Right now it's easy because forum training, the chapter will pay for it. It's not free, but the chapter pays for it. It is beneficial enough just for you to go through forum training. But they'll explain everything from the way we talk is using a model called Gestalt, which is where the simplest way to put it is where you'll speak from experiences versus advice. This will save your marriage if you start doing this. I promise you that. But it will also keep the group moving effectively, like I said. The biggest reason behind this is, and if you think about it, is, think about your kids. Your kids can't argue your experiences, but they can sure as hell argue your opinions, your thoughts, you should do this versus I have done that, and here's how here was the outcome. So recognizing that and pushing that forward. The way that meetings will work, length will depend on how many people are in the group. Usually for the average forum, for the members, it's usually anywhere from about 4 hours is what I would say is the time commitment we would want you to be willing to make if it needs to be that long. What we're not going to do is say, hey, you said you were going to be here for 4 hours, so we're going to stretch this thing out to waste time, right? We're going to be effective in everything that we do. In that, there's a structure where you'll come in with first starting off with monthly updates. And this is not anything to be scared about in the sense of like, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. We have a structure you'll walk through and just fill in the blank. If you can fill in the blank, this is very easy. And then as you get comfortable with it, it becomes second nature. And again, you can ask your spouse about any of this, about how it takes some time to get used to. After the updates, we do these things called presentations. And presentations, I think, are the most misunderstood part of forum, even for members, if they're not trained properly. And the fastest way to explain what a presentation is you bring up something that's going on in your life. And it doesn't have to be bad. It could be good. It could be anything, an experience you're going through. You talk about it for about 5 to 8 minutes, and then the rest of the group does all the work. So it's not like a therapy session. Please understand it. That's not the point of this, where you're going to come and basically pour your heart out, and we're going to sit there as therapists and try to help you. Now, there might be a time where that happens, come down the road when you guys create that bond. But what we're here to do is to say, hey, that's an interesting experience that you're going through, right? Like Anastasia, if you're going through something with your kid and you're in there and Maria's in that group also, and you're sitting there and she can say, hey, when I had a situation like this, here's what we did and here's what we got from it. So she's not giving you advice. She hears what you're going through and she says, okay, how can I relate to that? And it was when this happened, here's what we did. And it will give you a totally different way of communicating with people. And then finally, confidentiality. This is an interesting part of the whole program, and it's the backbone to what makes it work so well. Everything that will be said in this forum, and this forum, just so you guys know, will actually be 2 separate forums. I'll explain that in a second. But everything that will be said in this forum will stay in this forum. What that means is you don't tell your spouse, right? So Josh, you don't tell Melissa. Melissa, you don't tell Josh what happens in this group. The goal for me is that there's enough groups here that we can pick and choose where each spouse goes. And one thing that I highly suggest is to make sure that you and your spouse are on the same page with that, right? They're not going to tell you what's happening in their forum, and you're not going to tell them what's happening in your forum. And that's not hey, we like to keep secrets in our relationship. Trust me, Maria and I are uncomfortably transparent with each other in every way possible. When it comes to forum, though, the reason why it's so important to keep this confidentiality is because it's the integrity of the group that's so important. But also, if Maria was to tell me a bit of the story, I would only get a part of what's going on. Does that make sense? So unless you're there to hear it from the horse's mouth, you don't ever want to share it because they're only going to get that one piece that you're saying. So it not only is it not fair to the person who you're breaking that confidentiality with, and again, a reason I share this and I say get on the same page, because once you make this agreement, Maria doesn't tell me what happens in spousal form, and I don't need to know. Now, Maria and I do share what we talk about, right? Does that make sense? Like, hey, I presented on this issue and here's what I got from it, but not who I got from it, not what's going on in other people's lives. But again, it's respecting the other people in the group, because you'll start off with very surface level stuff and all of a sudden something happens and now it's time to have a serious conversation. And then finally, there's a constitution that we will give you that you will start with. And I'm going to ask everyone who comes into these groups to do it for the first 6 meetings, which would be the first 6 months. After that, and you get a feel and you want to make a change, we could have that conversation because it's your group, right? But I want you to use the system that we know works, and we know works very, very well. The reason we do a constitution is because everything that works well we don't need agreements. If Kayla and I are working together in business and things are good, we don't need an agreement. But the second things get a little weird, now all of a sudden there's emotions involved, there's fairness involved, there's what I deserve, what you deserve. And if we don't have it clear on paper how to handle certain situations, it gets very detrimental to the rest of the group, versus having a clear constitution that we could sit there and say, hey, Tim, you and I are in this together, but here's what happened, therefore I'm out, right? It's very clear. I didn't do what I said I would do. So Tim doesn't have to sit there and have this hard conversation with me. Tim just reminds me of what we agreed on before. And it has been amazing what it does to save relationships in the sense of no hard feelings between Tim and I. It is what it is. It's also been amazing what it's done to keep people in line without having to babysit people and, crack the whip, for lack of better terms. So we'll give you all of this stuff. I'm just sharing how this is going to work. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to invite 2 groups to do this. Ironically, we had a perfect amount of men and women who said they wanted to be a part of it. So we're going to have one group that I'm going to lead for men, spouses that are men, and then one group that Maria is going to lead, which is spouses that are women. But here's what my ask of you is. These are the first 2 groups. I want this to build so that other spouses want to come in and other members want people to be a part of this. So our goal is to take these 2 groups and then eventually in the near future, split them and have another leader take another 2 groups so that there's options. Because there might be scheduling and times that don't work for you, that you really want to be in this group, but you can't meet when they want to meet. Or there might be an issue where there's a conflict. And we've had this where it's like, well, wait a minute, we're working here and, I'm trying to figure out, I work with, Colton, right, Anastasia's husband, and Anastasia's in my forum. And do I want to be honest with her if I'm working with him or I'm in his forum? There's a lot of ties that we like to try to avoid that, unfortunately, in these first 2 groups, we can't avoid them. But the goal, again, is to be able to grow this so that we can have options, different time slots, different groups that get together. And then, obviously, once you get going, feel free to invite friends. I tell people, if you know other people who are in EO who are like, I don't know about spousal form, I am telling you, it will make their relationship much stronger. And the understanding and value that they're going to get behind putting that money towards EO every year. There's no fee to do spousal form, right? And I know all of us EO members would love if our fees were half the price. So get 2 for 1 is how I kind of sell this to people, is you get 2 forms for the price of 1. But the other thing, if you're sitting there going, it's just not for me yet, as a family engagement chair, which I would love your help with in general, just to spread that out, come to events. There was an event today that was amazing. That would have been great for anybody, not just entrepreneurs, Dan Quigley. And it was fantastic. And anyone could have remotely come in or actually shown up and met us at the sound room. So what I'm sharing with you is there's a lot of ways for you to get involved. The next thing we're going to be doing with family engagement, once we get spousal under control, is going, how can we get kids involved, right? If anyone has young adults that are kids, how can we get them to come to some of these events, right? If they're 18 and older, I think they should be learning a lot of this stuff. There's no reason they should wait. I know you're trying to put it in their heads anyway, and I'm sure they're not listening. So let's get some of these paid speakers to do it. On top of that, going down to the younger ages, right? Ages from 0 to 5. What are some things we could do with those groups? And break people up based on the age group of their kids to be able to interact and get to know each other. Again, because the biggest thing when I asked Maria, entrepreneurship is lonely. Being the spouse of an entrepreneur is also lonely. And it's very hard to relate unless you've experienced some of the stuff that we've all experienced, even though we don't know each other's stories. So with that, I appreciate you guys all being on this call. The next steps will be is I will send each of you an email, assuming you're still interested. So I guess what I will say is if you are not interested, shoot me a message saying, hey, you know what, just not for me right now. I don't want to commit the time, whatever it might be. If you are interested, shoot me an email and just let me know any questions you have, right? So I make sure we're on the same page. Probably in the next week or so, I'm gonna find out when we could do a training of some sort or tap into a forum training so that everyone can go through the training. I think it's still all remote. I mean, it's going to be a very exciting and attempt to be interactive Zoom meeting, which I'm sure we're all excited about, but it will still give you the information you need. And then from there, I would love to do the first forum meeting for both the groups in October or November, depending on when we get the training in. And if people are interested enough and excited enough and anxious enough to do this, I mean, I'll train you guys all I want, right? The forum training is great that EO offers, but I can walk you through how to get it started as we're waiting for the opportunity. So with that, I appreciate it. We started at 8:15, and I have 3 minutes left. I'm a little bit over that 15-minute mark, or 8:05, I'm sorry. So I apologize. I'm 2 minutes over. But with that, for the next, if there's any burning questions, by all means, let me know. Otherwise, stick to for that email, and we will go for there. So I will unmute all of you. So if you have kids yelling in the back, tell them to be quiet. And feel free, if you have any questions, let me know. Would love to answer a couple right now and anything else we can do.
Matt, why did you opt to separate on sex?
Strictly because I wanted two groups anyway. And I wanted to be involved in it because I've never been in a spousal forum. My wife has a business, so it's actually more of a selfish thing. And just to be able to spread the numbers out as much as we could. Anything else? And the other thing is having 10 people in a forum plus a moderator. It's a lot of people to come through. And it just worked out well with me jumping in and helping out. Any other questions? Perfect. Well, like I said, any questions you all have, feel free to email me. My cell phone, I think it was in an email. My cell phone, if you want to write this down, it's 267-968-0887. Feel free to text me if you have any questions. My email is matt@lifepulseinc.com. By all means, shoot me an email. Let me know what we can do. Other than that, have a great rest of the night. Appreciate you all showing interest, and hopefully we'll get started in the next month or two and make this a reality. Sound good?
Night.
Night. See you guys.
Yeah. Hi.